see all of you.
It's so nice to see so many familiar faces. Well, maybe not so many yet, but as people come on, it's great to see you repeat folks come back, and like to hear your stories and questions as well. So good to have you.
Well, I'm going to share my screen. Hi, I'm Tristan from the Ask Sean Show and Climate Reality in Orange County here. And we put together the Ask Sean Show because we had lots of questions about electrification. We knew that electrification could save us money. And according to Rewiring America, it can save up to $1,800 a year going electric. But I think there's also a social cost, a health cost that's not even factored in on that Sean can talk about later, as well as it addresses a lot of the emissions that we are so concerned about. And 42% of the energy related emissions come from our homes. And also burning gas we're finding out now, as it's shared more and more in the news, that it's like living with a smoker. So it's really important that we look at electrification now. The time has definitely come. And your co-hosts are here. I'm Tristan Miller, and we've got Diana again, as well as Michelle Ringler, who are also with our partner chapter in the San Fernando Valley. And of course, Sean is here today as well. As always. And we're going to be changing up the show a little bit and starting with some questions with Sean. And then we're going to go to our amazing guest, Wendell Kennedy, who is the co-founder of Channing Street Cooper Company. And we're going to get to meet Charlie today, the first energy storage equipped induction range. So I'm excited to meet Charlie as well. Michelle, can you do a quick little introduction of Weldon while we're waiting to get started? And then we're going to go back to some questions.
Sure thing. We're really excited to have Weldon Kennedy as our guest this evening. Weldon is a social and political campaigner and communicator with extensive experience in the US, Europe, and East Africa. Through that work, he's been involved in founding or in early stages of 6 socially motivated startups seeking to create change in a variety of ways, from advocacy to job creation to helping consumers improve their lives while making a difference. Prior to co-founding the Channing Street Copper Company, he founded ENDA, the first Kenyan-made running shoes, an advocacy training organization, Campaign Bootcamp in the UK. So please welcome Weldon Kennedy.
Hey, Weldon!
Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It's really exciting.
Go ahead.
Oh. All right, I guess I'll take it away if Tristan and go. Thanks. Thanks for having me here. It's really exciting to be on the Ask Sean show.
Now I think that we're going to do the Q&A part first, and then you'll do the presentation.
Yep.
Perfect.
We thought we'd try this show to take a couple questions right off the beginning. And again, if you've come to ask some questions, please put them in the chat as well. And this show, we're going to focus on induction cooking, but we can take any questions about your electrification journey. So you want to share your screen we've got a couple questions to start the show.
Cool. Okay. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for coming in. And I'm going to start sharing my screen, get it on a big screen here. Okay. Hey, y'all. I hope you're having a nice evening here. My quick, hey, I started studying how to electrify buildings in 1995 as an undergraduate at the Campus Center for Appropriate Technology. And so I've been in this for a long time now. I was about 18 when I started. I was a high school science teacher for a few years. I take science very seriously, but when I was a science teacher, I was enjoying more putting solar on the roof of the school than I was really doing the high school teaching part. So went into development, and from 2005 to 11, worked at our big local general contractor, our biggest local developer, and started an affordable housing division just based upon all electric, 100% solar powered housing. This is a nice example here, this little handy colored low-income senior housing in Fort Bragg. got laid off in the recession, started with a consultancy called Redwood Energy with my partner, Michael Winkler. And our biggest, coolest project is this 12-story tall, 100% solar powered housing on the Beltway of Washington, D.C. And it's got a 9-story tall solar wall on the south side facing. It's passive house, all electric, battery backup. But tonight we're going to talk more about these kinds of things. This is my house, this cute little thing here. I electrified it, started electrifying it in 2008. And when my mother-in-law died in 2017 in the Tubbs fire, the Santa Rosa fire, that was when sort of the stake snapped, kind of snapped at that point, and realized couldn't go slow on this, and got rid of the gas stove, which we're going to focus on tonight some. So first question. Hugh Menton of Long Beach, California asked, we have a gas stove and do a fair amount of cooking and baking with it. We tried an induction stovetop some years ago in Claremont, and electrical problems could never be resolved, so we are hesitant to jump in full force on an induction stove. However, we understand there are standalone induction cooking units that we might be able to use for much of our cooking. Do such units require changes and upgrades to the electrical system? So I think what you're describing here, I was a little unclear. If you meant countertop induction ranges that are built in, and if so, the built-in version is what you're looking at here, where there's no oven on it, and there's a hole in the countertop, and this thing sets in. And so the question of the wiring challenge, all of these, all the ones that are on a counter and set in, all of them are 240 volt and require a 40 amp circuit, sometimes even a 50 amp circuit, but there isn't one that is not that way. However, I'm going to, let's see, I want to pull out of this for a second. I'm going to show you on Amazon what I think you might also be acting about. New Wave 8-inch induction cooktop. I'm going to show you my screen here in just a second. So when you're getting a countertop version, I'm going to do new share. Here we go. Look at this. This is on Amazon, and this is single burner. And I'm pointing this out to you because the main complaint that people have with the 120 volt on the countertop induction is that the coils inside are small. They're often like 5 inches or 6 inches. And that means that right above it on the pan, it's really only like a 5 or 6 inch spot that gets really hot. And if the pan diffuses heat well, then the rest of the pan also gets hot, but it's not as good as having an 8-inch coil. So this has an 8-inch coil, and this is the largest of the countertop. When you get a stove, like a real stove, those are often 8, 9, 10, 11 inches. They have big ones as a standard. But this is for 74 bucks. New Wave is a great brand, and you could do all your cooking on just one burner like this. And then New Wave also makes a 2-burner version of it. I'm trying to see if it's down here. Oh, no. But anyway, New Wave. I would suggest that you consider that as like a countertop solution if you're, here we go. If you're not if you're like, oh, I don't want to put an in-counter one like this and do an official 240 volt wire to it and such, then what I just showed you is the other cheap and easy solution for 70 to 150 bucks, 1-burner versus 2-burner. And I recommended the New Wave. I would recommend the brand New Wave because it has the 8-inch coil, and you're just going to be a lot happier with that. Okay, so that is the answer to. You're gonna have to rewire it for these ones, and you didn't have to rewire it for the one I showed you on Amazon. Question number 2. Dear Sean, I have a Thor gas range, and I'm curious about how to switch the power from gas to electric. So this will be an example where you'll need to put in a 240 volt circuit, like it's a wire, just a wire, just like the 120 volt wires, but it'll be probably 1 gauge thicker. It'll just have a little bit more copper, so that it can let more electricity run through it without getting hot. So here are some examples of, you have a 6-burner And I wasn't quite clear looking at it if it was 36 inches or 48 inches. Tom Cabot was sending me an email just before that I didn't have a chance to dig into. But on this slide are the brands that you should be looking at. And these are just representative, but you have a whole bunch to choose from, like Bosch, Cafe, Bertazzoni, Fisher and Paykel, AGA. Well, this is a crazy expensive one at $22,000. Oopsie. AGA is a very likely match for your specific needs, like a 6-burner. Sorry, my cat was getting rained on outside. And so Smeg, that's a gorgeous one here on the left-hand side in green, and the Retro Collection, Elmira, North Star, and Ilve Majestic. So, and there are others, but this is a pretty authoritative list of the brands. And you'd go to the website of each of these, and they often have gas versions and induction versions. All of these, of course, have induction versions. I'm just warning you that you might be distracted by the gas garbage. So this is a good induction for your size. Then the next question. Apologize for calling it garbage. I'm quite critical of gas. So dear Sean, there are 2 questions I wanted to ask. Can you suggest some electric fireplaces like the one you have? And yes, and can someone mute themselves? I hear a little bit of echo. Let's go through that and see. Oh, good, cool. So, well, first off, this is my little Dimplex stove. Dimplex makes a lot of different stoves, and you want the Optimist. I'm going to show you this in just a second, but and then you ask, what is an energy efficient space heater? I notice many people are using electric resistance ones that are increasing their electric bills in the winter. I'm going to show you that in a moment too. But this first, we'll start off with the fireplace. So a fire water is made by a Fire Design, and you kind of find them both online, a Fire Design and a Fire Water. So I want you to know that it's the same company. They're just multiple names. So to be clear, they are a higher end. I'm showing you the high end one first. They don't provide direct up pricing. I can't show you what it costs because they provide quotes after you type in, like, we have this wide of an opening. We want it to have a fire water. They give you the option of having LED lights that change the flame colors. So you can have blue flame or green flame or rainbow flame, as well as standard wood burning flame. So they have the highest quality cassettes on the market. And there you can see the website link of fireplace.com, advanced water vapor fireplace inserts. So this is more of a custom. This is for commercial businesses. This is for your nice fancy house. And then Dimplex, I got this Dimplex Optimist Pro 500 built-in electric cassette. That's what you're seeing here. See that? And that's my darling, at the time, 7-year-old daughter, who was just so amazed that she could stick her hand into a fire and not get burnt. She kept on sticking her hand into, like, I'm not on fire. It's very convincing. So this cassette, I got it on sale for $900. And I know that they cost like $1,400 frequently if they're not on sale. And then Dimplex makes bigger ones, different kind of cassettes. And you can put them in to any sort of facade if you want it to look like rock or whatever. These things fit into facades, but they don't come with a facade attached to them. But like the cassette, it does come with wood, with logs, fake logs. Now, you asked also the question, of what about like an energy efficient space heating system? And I wanted to show you that idea. Okay, so new share.
And if I could tell you why I'm asking that, this is Patty.
Hey, Patty.
Hey, you were on fire at the Green Ribbon Committee, by the way. I'm in solar, and lately I keep coming across customers who have really high winter bills. So my thinking is that they're all using electric space heaters that aren't very energy efficient. So I just wondered if you had insight into that.
Yes. So if they're using electric resistant space heating, these things on the left here, those use about 3 times as much electricity as the options to the right. So the first one you could look at is Toshiba rebrands one that is made by Midea, M-I-D-E-A. I'm going to put this into the chat real quick. So Midea, yeah, boom. So Midea makes an inverter controlled little heat pump. So this is the smallest option. My partner actually heats his house, his 1,500 square foot house, with 2 of these. His ground source heat pump broke more than a year and a half ago with a power surge that fried the panel. So this is 440 is too low. For the one that you'd be getting, the inverter one, it'd be about $600 to $700. But they can do a ton of heating, like 12,000 BTUs of heating. The one to the right, this is a Tom Cabot here, I think, on our chat. And he installed one of these in his house. It's a do-it-yourself model made by Mr. Cool. And it comes with pre-charged refrigerant lines. And it can be a 120 volt. So you can also just plug it into any outlet. And the same thing with this is a packaged terminal heat pump. So it's like the one here on the left, which is just one device that doesn't need any special installation. The one in the middle, it's a split system. So there's a compressor that sits outside and then refrigerant lines that have to be installed to a fan coil inside. But this one just sits on the wall, pulls air through a duct in the wall, like an 8-inch duct that pulls air in and then exhausts air from another 8-inch duct. And you can also plug this into a 120 volt outlet. So of the 3, definitely the Midea, Toshiba. Like I said, Midea makes it, Toshiba does a rebrand, and you can buy them both, Mideas and Toshibas, out there like at Lowe's and Home Depot and such. This is the easiest one. It's just it's noisier, but like if this is $600, this Afoca over here doing the same 1 ton of heating, it's like $4,000 to buy by comparison, and it costs money to install. Versus the Toshiba, it just need a window, and it's about $600 to $700. So it's like almost an order of magnitude more expensive to permanently install something like this. This Mr. Cool, you see it's $1,450, but it has trickier installation. That's the upshot of it. I can even show you, because Tom did a nice little write-up of what it costs to do his house here. So you can see his mini split heat pump. It cost him $1,600. He got one of them, and there's the electrical materials, $120, and they installed it with a friend, and $40 there for the compressor. So you can add it up as maybe $2,200 or so of materials and free labor. So does that answer your question though?
Yeah, those are good options. I mean, the first option that was the cheapest, it probably just, it's cheap, but it doesn't heat as much. And then it seems like it kind of, the standalone is like almost like a standalone AC.
Yeah, it is. Like those things that they've always been standalone little ACs, and just recently they started making them into heating systems as well. Yeah, this one. So they work. They're reasonably quiet if you get the Midea Toshiba inverter one.
Mhm.
And I'll make sure I put that into the chat, that exact brand and such in a couple of minutes. But yeah, that's a cheap one. And
Okay.
the third of the energy is this electric resistance one. So
Oh, it's a third of the energy. Wow. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of a big deal for cutting the bills. Although keep in mind, like if this is $50, this heat pump is $600. So
Mhm.
it's expensive, but it gets you a nice heat pump.
Mhm.
This Efoca over here, it's $2,000 if you buy them in bulk. If you buy one of them, it's $4,000.
Mhm.
If you add maybe a couple $1,000s of installation, even $1,000, it's still once again about 10 times as expensive as this. So you can see these are orders of magnitude different in pricing, from
Mhm.
electric resistance and easy to a heat pump and easy to a heat pump and reasonably easy, but still kind of expensive and hard.
Yeah. So I'm guessing a lot of people probably just get sort of like that first option, not realizing they take more energy maybe. I mean, the second one is more of an investment, but it seems like it'll be paid off eventually with our energy rates nowadays.
Yeah. And you can run it on solar if you have solar in your house, and it provides air conditioning in the summer. And summers are getting hotter now, where people want some air conditioning sometimes. And they can do heating all winter in coastal climates. So yeah, it is the cheapest, fastest way to electrify your space heating system is a couple of these in your house.
Okay,
Yeah. I mean,
great info. Thank you.
hey, you're welcome. Then the next question. Other fireplaces. And this
And
is
we may want to save this for later, because I don't think Jeffrey is here tonight.
oh,
And we may want to switch to
Oh.
our guest, since it's already 5:50.
well, let me, I think I will answer this one just because we got some things that other people might appreciate, but I can answer it for them again next time. The basic question was, how can we share why going electric benefits them and their family and cooks as good, if not better, than gas? So this is what Tristan had referred to earlier. And I wanted to show you some images that many people haven't seen. So on the left-hand side, this is what it looks like when you have an electric stove starting. Like it sends up a plume of methane that isn't burnt, and then it starts a flame, and the flame like goes boosh like that. But this flame that you're seeing here, that's heat. That's not the actual flame. In the real world, you didn't see flame rising, and nor did you see these clouds of smoke around it. Basically, it's like a campfire in terms of the amount of fire that you have there. And you can imagine, like, you run a campfire and you have a campfire going and you put a pan on it and it cooks a hot dog or whatever, or pancakes and something. This is a campfire. On the right-hand side, the dirtiest air in the United States is between 30 and 60 ppb outside, parts per billion of nitrogen dioxide, which is the main constituent of smog. And your kitchen makes literal smog. With sunlight added, like a sunny day, when it comes in, it does all the things that make smog. And so cooking on electric is a very small amount of smog that you'd make. It's just the grease oils coming that you're burning on the pan. And versus gas right above it, where you're adding in all this combustion of the gas underneath it. And you cooking one dish are very likely to have dirtier air than any that you've ever experienced anywhere outside in your whole life. Your kitchen is the dirtiest place that you live and you exist in. Cooking a full meal, I mean, you can get 4 times higher than the outside, which no one even sees that bad of air outside. It's the dirtiest air in your life is in a kitchen. And so there's been a lot of publicity on this recently about whether or not it's true, fair, accurate. Is it like cigarette smoke? And so I was going to say, like, yeah, there's a few different ways. So one of them is the benzene concentrations. And benzene is a terrible chemical that you get out of cigarettes and it causes cancer. So yes, gas stoves are creating benzene. And here I think it's probably the best study, and it's an old one in 1995. This is back when people used to smoke inside their homes. Many of us on this call remember what 1995 is like. You probably remember like back when buses had smoking sections and airplanes had smoking sections and bars and restaurants, all of that like in the 80s and 90s. I'm from 76, so my memory goes back to more or less the 80s. So they did a study in 1995 where they had a large population, like 600 couples, and they were studying electric stove and cigarette smoking. Electric stove, no cigarette smoking in the house. Back when people used to smoke in the house, they were able to do this real study, versus gas stoves, no cigarette smoker in the house. And they found that a cigarette smoker with an electric stove was just as bad as a gas stove. So cigarette smoker means someone who smokes a pack or two a day in the living room. And that is the amount of smoke that a stove creates. And, you know, I'm trying to make this illustration so you can really see the campfire of smoke that are around gas stoves. It's a pack of cigarettes that you're burning just over the course of, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's a lot of fire you have there, and it creates smoke. So, yeah, with that, let me hand it over to Weldon, okay? But thank you for your attention to that. And while Weldon is doing his, I'll try to do some chat responses.
Great, thanks. Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, that is the perfect segue, right? Cooking on gas is terrible for our health. I'm Weldon of the Channing Street Copper Company. I just want to, before I show you our appliance here, I just want to talk a little bit about why I'm here. Early on in the pandemic, kind of May or so, news comes out that the rate of emissions reductions are basically on track because of the whole shutdown of the pandemic. The rate of emissions reductions are on track with what we need to hit a 1.5 degree warming world. And that terrifies me, right? That absolutely terrifies me because I'm in Nairobi, Kenya at the time, and the suffering I see around me from the closing of the economy, it was real. It was, people were starving, and I got to this dark place where what seemed to me to be the trade-offs between people being able to live a life and the future of our planet seemed like an impossible choice. I moved back to America, and thankfully I realized that whole story that we need to sacrifice and suffer to reduce our emissions was a lie sold to me by fossil fuel industry that has created the concept of carbon footprint and told us a narrative of we need to sacrifice and suffer to save the planet, because the reality is we have the technology to live better lives while decarbonizing our lives, right? We will have a more comfortable home when you have a heat pump. It's just going to be better. You are going to not have that cigarette smoker in your house polluting your home, and you will cook better when you're cooking with induction. You'll have more fun and be healthier when you commute, walking or biking, or driving an EV, which also is going to clean up our city's air. So all these things that we need to live better lives, those are the things we need to do to fight climate change. And that's really kind of that moment for me where I said, you know what, actually, this is it. I need to be in the game of helping us all move towards climate solutions while living our best lives possible. And so that's why I'm part of the founding team here at the Channing Street Copper Company, where we make energy storage equipped appliances, starting with the induction range. Now, what does energy storage equipped mean? So you can see down here, visible underneath here is a set of batteries. What these batteries allow you to do is decouple the performance of the appliance from the amount of electricity coming from the wall. So Sean was talking about 240 lines and 120 lines. Now, both of those are they end up being the rate limiter of how much electricity can flow to power the appliance. When you use a battery to power the appliance, you get rid of that requirement, right? The battery is powering the appliance, and so you can hit whatever performance standard you want from that battery. Then all you need to do is have some electricity flowing into top of the battery, and make sure that the battery has enough capacity to satisfy energy requirements between the difference of what your performance metric is and the amount of power coming from the wall. So in the case of this appliance next to me here, it means you get a high-powered, high-performance cooking experience utilizing a 4 kilowatt-hour battery down there in the base, plugged into a standard 120 volt outlet. So instead of that expensive electrification process that you might otherwise encounter when you're getting an induction range, you can just plug into the humble wall outlet that is behind the gas range. Take out the gas range, plug in this guy, you're done. That's it, kitchen electrified. So really great experience. Plus, you have a bunch of added benefits. So not only is it easier and cheaper to install, but then you have the only electric stove in town that's going to work when the power goes off, and is also providing grid resiliency. Because one of the big challenges we have on electrification is we all move to electrified appliances. The power use right as the sun goes down, especially here in California, when you see that spike of energy from people getting home and starting to cook dinner, that's just as solar goes offline, and that's a big problem. Well, if you're using an appliance that is an energy storage equipped appliance, that load, that peak energy load that you would see around dinner time, is actually shifted And so you're charging those batteries up when the sun's shining and you're using it after the sun goes down. So it provides a whole bunch of benefits beyond just getting that high-powered, great cooking experiences cleaning up your home air. And so, yeah, that's why we're here making energy storage equipped appliances. Now, what is the difference between this and something like the New Wave that Sean was showing you earlier on? So I do not have one of these in my home yet. Mine is getting installed in March and I cannot wait because I am currently cooking with one of those single inductor things. And so that single inductor is running on, at peak power, depending on the model you have, it's going to do between 1500 and 1800 watts, nominally, right? This one, we deliver 4000 watts to the front inductor here. So what does 4000 watts do at boost power? Well, it's immense, right? That is an uncontrollable amount of power for cooking. Like it takes a professional chef to be able to successfully saute vegetables at that level of power. Really, what it's good for is boiling water really quick. I don't know if my headset cancels out the sounds probably a little bit, but the water is making some lively sounds already behind me. And that kettle is going to whistle in just a moment here, right? It is really just incredible power for boiling water. You're going to get home, start the pasta for the kids, and it's going to be done. There we go. There's the kettle. Don't know if you can hear it whistling there, right? It's just
you can hear it just like
okay. So you can hear that there's that squeak happens there. That's the amount of power and the experience you get from high-powered, full-power induction, right? When you're delivering those 4000 watts, and so you can imagine that amount of power trying to cook vegetables. You're actually going to cook at a much lower level than that most of the time. But then when you say, hey, you know what? Let's get these mashed potatoes ripping. You can boil that pot real quick, and dinner's done faster than you know it. Or if you really want to sear, say you're making some baba ganoush, get a cast iron on there, get it absolutely ripping hot, toss your eggplant on there, and you're just going to scorch it. And you're going to make a real smoky, delicious baba ganoush with none of those air pollutants that Sean was talking about. So it does all sorts of beautiful cooking tricks that you just, can't really get with the single inductors. Those single inductors are awesome. I use one, as I say, I use one all the time, but really you're going to have a lot of fun when you go full power and get a full power induction cooked up. So one of the other beautiful things about it is at the end of the meal, so I've just boiled some water here. I should have moved the kettle straight away, but at the end of the meal, just gonna tap a surface here. Any heat on that cooktop, that's the heat that came back from the kettle. Because what's happened is the electromagnet has vibrated the molecules of that kettle. And so the kettle is my heat source. This cooking surface, which is a nice clean glass cooking surface, wipe it down almost straight away, right? Because any heat on the cooking surface is residual coming back from the pan. So it's incredibly safe. I've got an 18-month-old at home, and this is the safe way to cook, right? It's like he's not gonna, if he gets his hand up on there, anytime, this is cool so quickly, right? There we go. A canned on surface, right? It's cool so quickly. You can clean it up right away, and it's just a simple glass wipe down. As someone who's very guilty of back when I had a gas stove of letting all the crumbs and gunk just because gather down below because it was such a hassle to clean it. Oh man, this is going to be great. So induction really is one of those things that just makes everyone's life that much better while decarbonizing. So that's why I'm excited to get these. We've taken our first pre-orders. We're delivering our first ones in the coming months as we also start to work on the process of ramping up production. Because there's a lot of people out there who are, facing this dilemma of how do you quickly and easily decarbonize your home and get induction, and I think we provide a fairly unique solution for it. So it's channingcopper.com if you want to join our wait list. We are currently only serving the Bay Area and then expanding to the rest of California as we go. So yeah.
What
Any
else
questions?
are some fun things that you can cook on an induction stove that you have found just cook like a dream when you're using?
Oh man, yeah, just about anything. I like things where there's a combination of really quick boil and then slow, steady heat. So induction holds a low temperature very well. A good induction can deliver 100 or 200 watts to the pan. And so you can get just the barest simmer. It's just, you'll get one bubble every now and then. It's really kind of almost below boiling. So something where I want to like heat it up really quick and then hold it for a long time. So cranberry sauce. We did Thanksgiving actually on this range. And doing the cranberry sauce on this is great because you just want it to hold temp for a long time. So you put it on the like a high power inductor, you turn it up to full. The moment it's boiling, you turn it right down to just a bare simmer, and then it sits there for like an hour, and you get this really rich, thick cranberry sauce because you're able to have that precise low temperature control for a really long time. So I love doing things like that. So sauces in particular, I find are really great on that. Anything where you want to sear, like, you know, if you're doing some smoked salmon, some salmon steaks, you can just put the pan down, turn the heat on. Never put oil in a cold pan. So, but that pan is quick so fast that you're going to turn the heat on. You reach over to pick up your oil and you'll put it in the pan straight away because the pan's going to be hot that you can do it right then. And then a moment later, you're putting the salmon in, and you'll get a really crispy skin really quick. And then you can turn the heat down. And because induction's so responsive, I like to do my crispy skin side first and then flip it over to the other side and bring the heat down because I don't want to actually sear the top bit too much. I like that a little more gentle. So you get that really crispy skin effect, but the pan's temperature comes right down because induction is so responsive. The moment you turn the power down, temperature is coming down, and it's faster than gas, right? Because one of the things that Sean's showing you in that that photo, that like, oh, here's all the smoke from the gas. The way the gas is heating your pan is it's actually heating the air, and then the air is transferring that temperature of the pan. So when you turn down the gas, that hot air is still there. The pan is still like, it takes a little while for it to cool down relative to induction where it's immediate. And so that sort of performance where you can like, hey, I'm mid-dish, just want to go down really quick. I love that. So yeah, two other examples there, cranberry sauce and then doing some salmon.
You're getting me hungry. Diane.
The grilled cheese sandwich concept similar to searing. You do quick, fast, hot temperature on the bread and then drop it down.
Totally, and you can pop I like to pop a lid on it and finish my grilled cheese at like a really low temperature, so they get like nice melty cheese without burning the bread. So good.
May I ask about the battery a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
What makes this stove remarkable is that if the power goes out, it can still keep on cooking, which is one of the main concerns people have with converting to electric cooking is those rare but real power outages that you have. So about how long do you expect that people would cook? I know that everyone cooks differently, very widely cooking energy, but can you speak a little bit about how long or what the variation is?
Yeah, so you should be able to get somewhere between 2 to 3 days worth of kind of, I would say, modest cooking out of this for a normal size, like a family of 3 or 4, right? And when I say modest cooking, I don't mean get every inductor firing and cook a turkey in the oven, right? That's the big stuff. But if you wanted to, do scramble some eggs for some breakfast burritos in the morning, and if then you say, oh, okay, you know what, for dinner tonight, we're gonna do those salmon steaks with a little bit of chard on the side, a little bit of nice sautéed chard, things like that, right? Where you're cooking like a nice meal. You're probably not heating up a huge cavity like of things. You're not, boiling 10 pounds of mashed potatoes or something like that. You'll go a couple days. Now, if you want to start utilizing the battery for other auxiliary backup, so this one on the back, just because it's not a commercial unit, eventually the plugs are going right here. There's an auxiliary port plug to provide power for other home essentials. And so depending on what you want to plug in for other home essentials and what other energy use you're doing on that, that'll adjust your time. So say you wanted to plug your refrigerator into that, then you're looking at like a day to day and a half worth of cooking and refrigerator use as well. So totally depends on how you want to utilize that battery.
I cook on induction over here, and I just convey that I'm generally cooking at about 500 watts, and cooking takes a range of 10 to 15 minutes. 20 minutes, 30 is a really large amount of cooking, for me to be doing. So I think that I cook on less than half a kilowatt hour, and you have a 4 kilowatt hour battery. So that kind of tracks for me. Is like a day of cooking would be 1.5 kilowatt hours. 2 days of the way I cook, at least, would be 3 kilowatt hours, and you've got 4 kilowatt hours, and that'd be that 2 to 3 day conversation just had. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And again, like, if you say, hey, you know what, I'm on battery, we're going to be a little bit moderate on like what we're cooking. you can probably extend that. But like, if you just say, hey, you know what, sacrifice nothing, live our best life while the power's out. Yeah, do it. You'll be all right.
We had a cool question in the chat real quick from Emily. Is the stove smart enough to switch on the battery at peak grid time? Or is it a manual switch? Like, would you use it for that time of day to offset the peak?
Yeah, so we have kind of two settings by default. So one we call community resilience. And so community resilience is by default avoiding charging when possible during peak peak grid use times, which also happens to be the dirtiest times on the grid. And so by avoiding that charging during that time, you're kind of helping the entire community by lowering grid utilization during that time, right? And so here in California, we all got that text message over the summer when the grid was really under strain. That was like the worst case scenario, right? But really, oftentimes the grid is under strain, especially in the summer hours during that kind of evening window. And so by avoiding that time, you're providing resilience to the whole community and the people who need energy to stay alive. You're helping them out in a significant way by staying on that kind of community resilience mode. And then there's an individual resilience mode, which is, hey, you know what? I think the power is going to go out. Well, let's keep this battery topped up no matter what. And that's that it'll just charge all the time, no matter what.
Can I elaborate on that? That was fascinating. You said there's two different modes. One that keeps it charged all the time, and the other one. Are you saying like you could set this to not use grid electricity in the evening hours? Does it have a clock or some other way that it would track that?
That's right. There's APIs around carbon intensity of the grid. And so, yeah, utilizing that, being able to just load shift off of those peak use hours.
So you are communicating in some way with this. What is the signal? Is it like a Wi-Fi or like a
mobile signal?
Mobile signal. Wow. So you have a mobile phone hookup in your device of sorts.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that really makes it possible to have an appliance that is as responsible as possible to the conditions of the grid. Because really, like as a mission-focused company, helping all of us electrify is a huge part of what we want to do. And the more that we're all load shifting, the easier it is for everyone to electrify.
Weldon, did you already mention the electric outlet that you have?
Yeah. So it has an auxiliary port on it. This one's in the back, so you can't see it here. But the production models have them up front here. But yeah, auxiliary port for other home essentials that goes off of the battery.
Tell us more about some of the features, the features of the oven.
Yeah. So this one has a 6.3 cubic foot oven. That's it's just an electric convection oven. Electric convection is pretty much the gold standard in oven technology. And you'll even see high-end gas ranges now having a convection electric oven. It's the most precise temperature control and one of the most responsive. So that's really great. We don't have self-cleaning feature on it, and that is a feature because you'll notice at Sean's little chart back there of home air pollution. What was the thing that was highest as on the electric pollution range? That was self-cleaning. Self-cleaning is a fairly toxic feature, and so we don't provide that functionality as we are committed to clean home air, and we don't think that is a feature that is in line with that mission. Overall, you're looking at 4 inductors up top, 2 in the back, 2 in the front, 1,800 watts total peak power on the ones in the back, 3,200 front left, 4,000 on the front right. Simultaneously, overall power delivery can be 10 kilowatts as a peak delivery moment. So it's pretty high. It gets real ripping if you want it to, and that would be utilizing your peak power on the inductors and from the oven as well. But like I was saying, on the utilizing that 4,000 watts, that's only for boiling water, and it'll get up to temp real quick, as you saw with that kettle.
One was the price, which I think you're selling them for $6,000, right? And
that's right.
And then I was asking about a coil dimension. Remember I was mentioning earlier, like 8 versus 6-inch versus 11-inch. What are your coil dimensions for that satisfying heat spread?
Yeah, so 12, 10, 8, and 8 are what we have on this one. And then on the price point, the big one is actually quite big, and they sense down, so they can they can take smaller objects than the actual full size of the coil. They're a concentric series of rings, so you can you could place an 8-inch pan on the biggest inductor and it still picks it up. Indeed, you'll notice that this one is not like a full 10 or 12-inch around, but it still gets picked up by the biggest inductor. On the price point, so yeah, $6,000 is what these ones are going at. Now, a lot of fun stuff on that. It is a lot more. It's a lot more features than any other induction range out there. You have that load shifting, you have the fact that it works when the power is out, and you have the opportunity to get it installed with zero hassle. No electrician involved, no holes being punched in your drywall, just plug and play. And so you're getting all of that at a $6,000 price point. And because of the complexity and cost of installation, it could end up still being, even with the extra features, the cheapest way to get an induction range in a lot of homes. So depending on the complexity of your installation, if you have to run a new service line to be able to do the stove, or get a new panel, or who knows if there's asbestos behind if you've got an older house and you're going through a wall to run the new cabling and suddenly you encounter asbestos, bless you. It's, your installation just got a lot more complex. So by avoiding all of those, it can end up being the most cost-effective way to get into someone's home. Get induction if you have gas now. It can be the most cost-effective way to get it in. It also qualifies for additional benefits. So for example, the Inflation Reduction Act includes a 30% investment tax credit for batteries over 3 kilowatt hours, which you got right here. So you're getting 30% back on your taxes in the following year, which is not available for other induction appliances. The other incentives still apply. So you get in the Bay Area where I am right now, Bay Rent will give you $750 for it. There's a income qualified $840 if you're removing gas for an induction range, and that's in the Inflation Reduction Act. That qualifies as well. But yeah, that extra 30% back on your taxes makes a real big difference in terms of price. So it ends up being, to me, it's pretty amazing that you end up getting so much more appliance, and it could actually be one of the more affordable ways to do it. Just kind of fun.
Can we peek inside?
Yeah, sure. Big old blue. Woo, we didn't clean the oven out as well after we did. So we use this. This is our, I don't know if you can see the grease down the bottom. We use this exact one every week as a team. We try to kill it. We put as much load on this as we can. So last Thursday there was something like 20 pounds of ribeye roasting with a gluten-free vegan cashew butter and cheese, and then 4 pounds of collard greens and 8 sweet potatoes turning into mashed sweet potatoes. So we try to put as much simultaneous load on this as possible, because this is our stress tester effectively. And so yeah, there's a bit of grease in the oven there from the ribeye. Sorry about that.
Hey, Weldon, can I chime in and ask you a question?
Sure, yeah.
This sounds really exciting, and something that my family is going to be interested in. We want to get an induction stovetop in the near future. Hey, so one thing you're talking about is how the induction stovetops we've been hearing about. They need the 200, and you got to run a line for 240 volt. Now you mentioned this one. You can just plug it into a standard outlet, 120 volt. How, given all that this does, how is it that it can run on just the 120 volt? Is it because of the batteries involved? Can you explain that?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So like, think of it like you're really driving the device from the battery, and then what's coming from the wall is how quickly you're topping that battery up. So if you're cooking fairly consistently at a fairly high load on the range, you will get about 8 hours of continuous cooking at a fairly high level from this, while charging from the wall simultaneously before you exhaust the battery. So it's a fairly intense cooking endeavor to do that, right? So like if you really wanted to push it. And that is because the cooking experience is taking more power from the battery than you are getting from the wall at that point. Now, there are a lot of activities where the cooking is actually kind of equal power or below the what doing from the wall. So let's say you're roasting, or you're doing some cookies, you're doing rack after rack of cookies, 375 in the oven, right? So when you're getting the oven up to temperature, it's going to drain those batteries. It's going to work the battery. It's going to be taking power from them. And then once it's at temperature, actually you'll be charging the battery again. Once it's at temperature, holding that 375 is pretty consistent. So you'll be popping cookies in and out and doing rack after rack of them. You know, say you're like, I'm going to bake 100 cookies. We're having a big old party. By the end of the baking of the cookies, your battery might be full. Like your battery will probably actually be full again because it's been charging up that whole time after getting the oven up to heat. So really what you're looking at here is that the battery is there to provide that, like, you know, high power moments, right? To deliver a bunch of power really quickly for heating things up. But then, you know, on the kind of sustained basis, you know, you actually are only utilizing anything that's like equivalent to that 120 outlet. So that's what the battery allows you to do, right? It decouples the performance of the appliance from what the electricity that you're getting out from the wall is. And this one can plug in, the charger is equipped to plug in. So if you have an electric range already and you want to upgrade to an induction, energy storage equipped induction, this can plug into a 220, 240 line as well. So that option is there and you'll just charge faster.
Is it a lithium ion battery?
It's lithium iron phosphate, which is a category of lithium ion, but it is very different. So I think we're all used to lithium ion. It's kind of the standard battery of our lives, right? It's in our laptops, it's in our mobile phones, it's in our cars, it's on our bikes, our e-bikes. And lithium ion is a great battery chemistry that has changed our world because it is incredibly power dense and incredibly lightweight for that power density, right? So it works great for like carrying around in your pocket and having a supercomputer run in your pocket, right? Awesome, awesome, awesome for that. Lithium iron phosphate is a very different battery chemistry. It's big and it's heavy. So it's not going to be in your phone, right? It has lower power density relative to its weight. And so that's why it's not in as many places that we as kind of normal consumers interact with. Now, if you run a server, like a big computer server, like, you know, you're at a Microsoft or Google or, you know, Amazon Web Services, you'll be very familiar with lithium iron phosphate because it is the standard backup battery for computer racks. And really that's kind of what we're going for here, is that this is a big battery that can sit still its whole life. So it doesn't matter that it's heavy because you're going to get it into your kitchen and it's going to sit there for the next 20 years, right? It's not going anywhere. If you travel with your range, you go on holiday with your range, let me know. We can talk about a different option for that. But no, this is going to sit still, right? So it's great for that. So it gives you access to kind of unconventional battery chemistry. Now, what are the advantages of lithium iron phosphate, right? So you're making the sacrifice on weight and space. What are you gaining? One, you're gaining a dramatically more stable battery chemistry. So we're all used to our cell phones kind of getting worse over the course of 2-3 years, and they're not as good. Lithium iron phosphate will do 8,000 to 10,000 cycles. So you're talking about, if you do full utilization of that battery, you're talking 20 years of good use before you start to see degradation. So really long lasting battery performance, which is awesome. And it's also incredibly safe. So when you compromise a lithium iron phosphate battery, you know, you'd like drive a nail into it or drill a hole in it or something. It will get hot. It will smoke a little bit, but it's not going to burst into flames. Now, a lithium ion battery, I think we've heard the horror stories of a lithium ion battery, if the cell is compromised, can have a thermal runaway event, which basically means all the battery's energy is released all at once and it catches on fire, and it's you know, it can be fairly catastrophic depending on the size of the battery. That doesn't really happen with lithium iron phosphate. Much more stable, much safer battery chemistry. You know, so it's going to give you a much longer lifespan and be safer for that longer lifespan. The only sacrifice that you're really making there is that it's heavy, but hey, it's going to sit still, so who cares anyway? Other benefit, there's no cobalt. Lithium iron phosphate batteries don't have cobalt in them, so you also avoid some of the conflict mineral situations that can arise with lithium ion batteries, and it also makes the supply chains easier for them as well.
Oh, well, then hold on, let me interject for a moment. For those of you who are seeing my screen here, we did a study during the holiday season of I think it's 22 households of their electric resistance energy use. And so what you're seeing here is average power for everyone's cooking sessions during the holidays is that they were using 1800 watts is what Weldon's stove can pulls out of the wall. In purple here, you're about halfway through purple before you see someone using more than that. It's actually really rare for anyone to use more than 1800 watts. Most cooking events, as you can see, are significantly less, and they're in the range, like there's a whole bunch of them, they're very low. But anyway, the point is that your stove meets almost all demands, even if you're just using electricity from the wall, which you're not. You're providing it from the battery, which has 10 kW, not 1.
Yeah.
1.8 is what people are mostly using. You can provide 10. So it seems like it was more than enough.
It's tons of power, and it really is it's a premium cooking experience, right? It's a cooking experience that makes you stand up and say wow, right? Because it is so much more power than people are used to when they're cooking.
Because we're coming.
Well, did you anticipate that the battery components will be, I know it's got a nice long life, which you mentioned. How about end of life? Will they be recyclable at the end of life?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one thing I like to challenge our mindsets on a little bit is like, actually think of it as that you have this battery asset and maybe you'll retire your appliance around it. Like you could upgrade your stove, keep your battery in place, swap out the stove, because depending on how you use and abuse your stove, it might be that your battery outlasts your stove. And so yes, the stove is recyclable if you need to replace it around your battery set. And yes, battery recycling, particularly on lithium iron phosphate, is getting much better, much more quickly. And so yeah, that's something that anyway, we're warranting the battery in the range for 10 years. But you can also think about it in the sense of, if you get to a point where you need to upgrade your appliance, the battery is a big asset, and that actually it might stay while the rest of the appliance goes, if that makes sense. I think it's unconventional because we're so used to thinking about the batteries wearing out, but genuinely, I mean, they're big, chunky, and stable, and who knows where appliance technology is going. It could be that you're like, oh boy, I want that new amazing one, or like the family situation changes and you're like, oh, now we're cooking for 6 all the time. We need to change our kitchen setup. And yeah, so that your core asset of the energy storage could stay while the rest of the appliance gets improved as well. Sorry, I kind of turned your question upside down. Sorry about that.
Well, and we're also going to conclude in a moment. We're almost at the end. So I just wanted to make sure that people heard that the stove is $6,000, and an induction range is generally like starts at $1,000 and goes up to $3,000. And your battery is equivalent to about a 1/3 of a Tesla Powerwall. My point being is that your $4,000 battery is very cost competitive with getting a Tesla Powerwall equivalent for that much energy, and your stove is equivalent, but what you're providing is not equivalent. Like this is the combination makes it so you can plug this in anywhere, and it has an inverter on it, and you can power other things on it. It's really a remarkable step forward. So like, yay, everybody, check this out. So the Channing Copper, they're available probably this October, right? It's like we're looking at that. I know.
For other consumer availability, I will say sign up to the wait list. There's a growing wait list. So to anyone who's not on it yet, I can't make any promises of when they'll be available for everyone else. We are ramping up production as quickly as we can. But yeah, it's been exciting to see this much interest and demand, and obviously we've got to be moving quickly to satisfy that demand.
So with that, I wanted to be able to close out with, we just got a few minutes here, with a call to action. First call of action is like, definitely consider, please immediately electrify your cooking in some way or another for your own sake. And so you can also convince other people that it was a good idea. What you're looking at here, this is our activism this year, which changes the course of civilization in the United States. I kid you not. Because if we can pull off the Bay Area Air Quality Management District getting them on March 15th to move forward with a zero NOx standard. NOx, nitrogen dioxide, this is a critical pollutant that causes smog, as I mentioned earlier, and the Bay Area has some of the dirtiest air in the country. So the Bay Area Air Quality Management District is proposing, and they need public support from us. They're proposing to start phasing out the sale of appliances that create NOx, which is not the same as banning gas appliances. If a gas appliance had like a carbon capture or a NOx capture, like they like to talk about, then it would comply. It's just saying that, like, you know, air is dirty, it's illegally dirty, it is unhealthy and harming people dirty. If we can get that out of the Air Quality Management District, which is the first of them, there's like a few others in the state that would move next and would adopt essentially whatever the Bay Area can pull off. And the federal government, the Biden administration, is waiting for California to do that so they can then propose a national standard around nitrogen dioxide, because they have a different set of standards, a different set of regulatory powers for the rest of the country. So California leads, and whatever we can pull off is the most that can be pulled off in our whole country, is essentially what happens. It's up to us. If whatever we can't pull off, no one else pulls off either. They all follow us. There's no other way, really. So I just want you to pay attention that the thing to do now is that March 15th meeting is you have to call in. There's nothing else to do. You can't write letters anymore. Is to go there and have your 1 minute and say how important it is for your own reasons, you know? So I wanted to make sure that you knew that that was the activism. And I wanted you to see that internationally, this is what other countries have been doing for years. So like France, they have a ban. It's one of those like air pollution based ones. So it's not technically a ban, but it functions as such for boilers, which is how France heats a lot of their buildings. So in 2022, last year, they stopped selling them for existing buildings. And you're seeing that all over the countries of the European Union, is they're putting dates on when they'll stop even selling them. And that's what we need. We badly need that in our countries, to just say, we'll stop selling this stuff at some year to come. And the last resource is Rewiring America, for all of you who are interested in how the funding that's come out of the Inflation Reduction Act to be used by you. They have a nice little textbook on it. And they have other resources for like local leaders, elected leaders. What can other organizations do with the Inflation Reduction Act? There's so much money in it. And there's so many different programs. So there's a lot of opportunities for us as a community to do what needs to get done. So that was the last little thing I wanted to say. Like, it's up to us, California, specifically going to the Bay Area and starting there, because then the Sacramento and the South Coast and et cetera, everyone follows the Bay Area Air Quality Management District's actions, including CARB this year and the federal government. So, you know, now's the time. If you're wondering like when to start working on it, now. Yeah, and with that, thank you all for coming. For our next session, if you have any questions you want to email Tristan and Diana or myself, I love that part of it. And thank you, Weldon. That was just fascinating. You know, you guys are making.
That was so nice, Weldon.
It's a real breakthrough. You know, it's like a big step forward for us. It's awesome.
I just want to invite everyone to, I'm the chair of the San Fernando Valley Climate Reality Chapter. And we have our monthly chapter meeting this Wednesday at 7 o'clock. I'm just popping that in the chat. And we're going to be hearing from the person who started Enrich LA, and they bring gardens into schools. And their goal is to have a farmable garden in every single school in Los Angeles. So if that's of interest to you, I put the registration information there in the chat. Please join us this Wednesday.
That's fantastic. And Weldon, we hope you're going to join us again when you get your range in your house, because we want to join you for dinner.
Oh man, yeah. That'll have to be the show, right? Like,
yeah, that's the whole show.
Yeah.
Hey, can everybody in the chat put in if you'd love us to have a cooking demo of inductions? Get a couple of chefs on, have Weldon make his famous grilled cheese. Please put that in the chat if you're ready, because I am up for it. We'll have an induction cook-off.
I think this needs to be an in-person meeting, don't you think? It should be an in-person meeting. Field trip, exactly.
Field trip. I think we can do both. I do want to do just a little housekeeping for everybody. We are posting the shows on our YouTube channel on Climate Reality Orange County. Sean also has an incredible pocket guide that I put in the chat. So it's a handy dandy guide for everything, right, Sean? Ovens, your mini split, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it is the only really comprehensive guide and such as it. There isn't really another better one to go to, but we did try to make it really friendly and more like People Magazine. I like People Magazine for just having pretty pictures. So there's a lot of pretty pictures that illustrate points to make it not an engineering text, but something that you can digest. And it's a free download, helps you plan through all sorts of different problems. Like if you don't have enough power to your house, what are the options that you can go to? Or if you want, there's just a ton of case studies to help you think through your own personal example. And but please, give us questions for next month.
And if you have a case study you would like us to showcase, please let us know.
Absolutely. I'll get to that too. And the Switches On program is another state resource where you can find contractors, because that's one of the biggest challenges, is to find contractors that will come in and help you electrify. And as Sean says on every show, please get 3 bids. It's very, very important to make sure that you're getting the, a real range of what the prices are. And that you're also coming to the contractor saying, hey, I asked Sean, here's what I'm looking for, because a lot of times we're finding a lot of guests are, moving the contractors are saying, go to gas, get this gas furnace, and you can come kind of armed with more information, because it's a real partnership when you're doing, making the switch, and we want to be helpful. Also, Rewiring America just came out with the Inflation Reduction Act calculator. So you can use that. And I put some of those links in the chat. There's a whole guide that you can download that gives you kind of the quick overview of some of the rebates that are coming down the pike. And there's a little cheat sheet in there so that you can look really quickly to say, okay, I'm going to be getting this and this and this. And we want to make sure that you register for each show, every second Monday of the month. Please join us. In April, we're going to be talking about what renters can do and some of the portable ways that you can electrify. Maybe you're not going to stay in this place forever. That's why we love, Charlie and Channing Cooper, is because you can move this range, right, Weldon? You can take it wherever you go.
Yeah, Channing Copper. And
Channing
yes,
Copper.
you can. Channing Street Copper Company, if you want to use his full name. And yes, one of the things we'd like to talk about is so long as your landlord is willing to take the gas range, or that they're okay with their range being hopefully retired and recycled, that, as a renter, you can have one of these and take it with you when you move to your next house too.
That's fantastic. And if you're interested in doing a case study next month, we are going to have, I think, Pete's house. Pete, say hi to everybody. Pete Marsh, we're going to learn about his electrification journey. And Kelly is also going to be joining us with a 7-unit rental property. So we're going to be looking at how we can get that electrified as well. And then in April, the Earth Month, we're going to be talking renters. And also we hope to have share Katie Porter's fantastic keynote at Sean's Redwood Energy Retreat, where she shares that she would like us to help her on her electrification journey. So if you have an elected official that you're talking with and working with, and you think they might be interested in electrifying, we want to do their case study, because there's nothing better than when you do it yourself and you realize the power of making that switch and how it changes your life. And also we're looking into maybe making, I switched with Sean to signs to put in the front of your house.
Don't do that. Not.
I'm joking. But then you let people know that you're electrifying, because the way we help others.
This is not a cult of personality, and I don't want that. I'm just. Okay, so
great. Thank you.
I'm gonna go make some dinner, and I look forward to hanging out with you guys all next month.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Bye-bye.
See you in March. Bye-bye.